Good morning.
Good morning.
A couple of weeks ago, I had the honor of being with you, and I took that time to challenge you with the proclamation that your God was too small. And the premise of that message was that we needed to stay open, remain open to an ever-evolving, ever-changing understanding of who God is and who we are and what that means. Today, I want to take things to a slightly different level and proclaim for us that any religion or spirituality that is worth its weight at all must take itself beyond a mere understanding, no matter how fluid and complete that may or may not be, an understanding of who God is and who we are and what that means, and must complete itself with the appropriate doings that understanding would mandate. In other words, today is about what we do. So there's no surprise that we turn to the letter of James. A book in our New Testament that has Quakerism written all over it, or within it. So let me read a couple of passages. I want to read verse 19 through 26 of the first chapter, and then a proof text verse out of chapter 2 as well. The first part, verses 19 and 20, I just want to read because I love hearing them. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. Therefore, rid yourself of all sordidness and rank growth of wickedness, and welcome with meekness the implanted word that has the power to save your souls. But be doers of the word, and not merely hearers who deceive themselves. For if any are hearers of the word and not doers, they are like those who look at themselves in a mirror. For they look at themselves and on going away immediately forget they were like. But those who look into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and persevere, being not hearers who forget, but doers who act, they will be blessed in their doing. If any think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues, but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. And then the same book, different chapter, chapter 2, verse 17. So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. May God add a blessing to the reading and the hearing of God's word. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Particularly in hot weather, but really all year round, I enjoy drinking seltzer waters that are flavored with a little bit of fruit juice. There are several brands of them around. A friend of mine has described those seltzer waters that I enjoy drinking, the taste of them, as follows. He says, it's like drinking carbonated water while someone in the next room yells the name of a fruit.
And it wasn't me.
Yeah. they're not wrong. But I've run into a problem of late in that I put 2 or 3 of them in the refrigerator, and then for some reason I don't keep a good count of how many of them I've consumed. And I go to the fridge to get a cold seltzer water, and there aren't any left. So I have decided that the solution to my problem is that I want to get a small fridge to put in my garage that I can load up with 40 or 50 of those seltzer waters. And that way I won't have to worry about continuing to take them out of the box and putting them in the fridge. And so, having decided that, I have spent some time online of late looking at various types of small fridges to go into the garage. Even had a conversation with my neighbor a couple of days ago, and he explained to me that there is such a thing as a garage-ready fridge, which is designed to adapt to the fluctuating temperatures that it gets in the garage on its exterior and adapt the interior accordingly. And apparently, if you don't have a garage-ready fridge, you can wind up with cooling issues inside of your garage. And so I went back and started doing some research on garage-ready fridges, thinking maybe there's a way to get a small one of those. His was rather large. This has been going on for about 3 months. Yesterday, I went to the fridge in my home and opened the door, and there was no cold seltzer water in it. My problem remained. Guess why? No. I've done a tremendous amount of thinking and planning and understanding of my situation, but I hadn't done a dang thing about it. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Do you know what you believe? We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. It's a good question, a fair question, and we spend a lot of time, I'm talking about a great deal of time and energy discussing and developing our particular beliefs. It is our unique theological belief, it's our unique theological heritage that separates us from other faiths and denominations and largely identifies who we are. Knowing what we believe, the basic tenets of our faith, is essential. It defines who we are, establishes our faith. It establishes who we are and how we exist in the world. Does it? What is the relationship between the things that we call faith and belief? There is a tale told about an Eastern mystic who is confronted by a young missionary with the challenge, who confronts a young missionary with the challenge. You Westerners are always trying to be something different before you do anything different. The scriptures tell us that it is through faith, not works, that we are saved, yet this message today isn't about salvation. It's about identity and mission. It may well be that we need to be clear on what we believe, and we do, but when our activity and conversation are all about what we believe versus what they believe, or who we are versus who they are, we risk mental and intellectual and oral self-absorption. I recently announced that on Facebook that I was taking a bit of a step back from social media, and what I meant was I'm not shutting down my social media, heaven forbid, but I have removed it from my phone, which makes it a little less accessible throughout the day, especially in the evening when I set into bed and would like to grab for a book to read and sort of settle into the end of the day. I found myself grabbing my phone and doom scrolling through Instagram reels, spending an hour or so titillating my mind and my eyes and really not accomplishing much, certainly not the calming of my mind or spirit. And it seems that those platforms have become places where we obsessively intellectualize and commentize. We don't really have conversations. But I don't know that they really help us to do a whole lot differently. The church is called to follow Christ, which means, at least in part, to be engaged in mission and ministry, and it is hard to build a church solely on belief. At some point, somebody's got to do something. I'm fond of the parable of the sheep and the goats from Matthew. Do you know that one? Mm-hmm. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. This is a parable. Remember that. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. And then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison. You came to visit me." And then the righteous will answer him, "Lord," there's a cough drop around here somewhere. And then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink?" Sorry about that. "Thirsty and give you something to drink. And when did we see you a stranger, invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison, or go to visit you?" And the king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whenever you did this for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me." And then he will say to those on the left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me." And they will answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick in prison and not help you?" And he will reply, "Truly I tell you, whenever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do it for me." And then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. A delightful story, if a bit of a scary one. The one difference between the winners and the losers in this tale is one simple thing. It's what they did or they didn't do. How satisfied are you with your life? How satisfied are you with your community? How satisfied are you with your country? How satisfied are you with the world in which we live? Nothing changes if nothing changes. Belief is about what we think and profess to be true. It's head work, it's mind work, it's important work. Belief is about understanding and conceptualization. But belief in and of itself isn't about doing. And I have to believe that's part of what James, the letter of James, is trying to address. Is a community that somehow had embraced the enthusiasm, the intellectualism, maybe even the mysticism of this thing called being Christian, but had yet to change their behaviors to align with it. Belief is often intimately connected to our doing, but in the end, belief doesn't do anything. The mythical sage Yoda said it best. There is no try, there is only do or do not. Faith is about doing, and doing is about faith. Faith is belief and conviction in action. We call it faith because it is an action that is based on our best belief, our best understanding, yet in the end it is still an act of trust, of faith that we are investing in. This particular action or choice is worth something, is of value, for lack of a better word. It is right. Activity rightly focused through belief is the essence of good faith. Let me say that again. Activity rightly focused through the lens of belief is the essence of good faith. Kant said, to be is to do. Socrates said, to do is to be. Sinatra said, doobie doobie doo.
The police said, do 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 da da da.
The peanut gallery has spoken. I spent 15 years as a practicing ordained minister with the mainline denomination. I did a surprisingly respectable job during those 15 years. My time in ministry was preceded by 4 years of seminary, and that was preceded by 4 years of college, during which time I was exposed to and studied some of the best theological thinking in human history. 8 years of higher education and 15 years of practicing ministry had given me a lot of mental and experiential ammunition for understanding life and religion and spirituality. And at the end of that 23-year education and ministry life phase, I found myself jobless, spiritually bankrupt, and about a month away from homelessness. Why? In short, because I had a crisis of doing. While I understood much, I was not particularly good at making good choices on a day-to-day basis. I had a believing religion, not a doing one. I had fallen away from the doing of my faith. I had a belief that was strong in thought and weak in action. Here's the exciting part. It was the need for more action, little teeny tiny actions. Just simply doing the next right thing for the next right reason. My inability to grasp those was my problem. I was consistently doing little wrong things. Story time. There's great wisdom in the words of our elders. The older I get, the more I understand the truth of this. I have a former father-in-law, and every time that I was leaving, he would wish me off with the words, "Drive safe and save your money." I think partly because he realized I was not one who was saving much money. But it took me years to realize the difference between understanding the value of saving money and the actions required to save money. Is it making sense? Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. Let's face it, it's always easier to talk about the doctrine of the Trinity than it is to tell the painful truth to someone you love. We find it easier to focus on our theories about baptism and scriptural authority than to learn how to communicate more effectively with our children. It is simpler to like, troll, or criticize a post on social media than to deal with the complex motivations that drive us to such mindless, numbing behaviors. To change our lives, we must change the way we live. Our faith informs us on how to go about doing that. We change our lives and our world by doing something different. Part of my salvation from my own misdoings or lack of doings happened to come through a 12-step program. Many of you know that. Those that you didn't, you know it now. There is a saying in that program, and I've used it several times today. Nothing changes if nothing changes. If you're here today and would like a little reminder of that, I've got a little sticker that you're welcome to. I'll place them here. I'll close with this. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So if you want different, do different. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes.